What's going on, everybody? This is Al from playbookgamer.com, and I do apologize. I literally just had the electricity go out on me. So we're going to try this again. Let me dive into this real quick and let me make a couple of adjustments. And I do apologize. Either Mother Nature got in the way or something. I'm not sure what happened there. But let's try this again. Make a couple of adjustments there. Okay, again, I apologize. Just for whatever reason, my electricity went out on me, and it rarely does that. So what we're going to do, I'm going to open this back up again. We're going to bring this back over. So we're going to try to start this again. So let me just go ahead. What we're going to do, I feel like in order to have a good complete video, I want to show the entire video of this. So we'll just go through this one more time. And let's just watch the video. Hopefully it'll go through all the way. And then I'm going to go through every bit of this. I'll just give you my reaction on everything. So let's go ahead and head into it.
Here with EA Sports College Football 25, back for another deep dive. This time we're talking about everyone's favorite mode, Dynasty. Online Dynasty in College Football 25 can accommodate up to 32 teams, and you can play with friends for up to 30 seasons. Today, we'll take a closer look at the new 12-team college football playoff, recruiting, the transfer portal, and a ton of customization options to make your program unique. College football has seen seismic changes over the past few years. And in EA Sports College Football 25, you can experience this new landscape while building your program the way you want. The 2024 season marks the debut of the new 12-team college football playoff, and you can play it first in the game months before the real thing. You could be the first coach to lead your school through the new 12-team playoff and hoist the college football playoff trophy. Recruiting is the lifeblood of college football, and in a world of unlimited transfers, managing your dynasty roster has never been more important. Evaluate your needs and opportunities for talent upgrades at the start of each season. The best way to build a powerhouse is to recruit through the high school ranks. So let's fill up your recruiting board. Each year, over 3,500 high school recruits are generated from all over the country, with certain regions representing real-world hotspots for blue-chip talent, like South Florida and Metro Atlanta. Do research to find recruits that best fit your program and determine who you can realistically land. A recruit's interest in your school is decided by 14 different pitch grades like proximity to home, playing time, and brand exposure. So you'll need to discover how your program's pitch grades align with your recruit's desires, in addition to scouting for talent. Some players have a deal breaker requirement, and if your program cannot provide, the recruit will lock you out. Deal breakers also drive a player's decision to enter the transfer portal. Monitor at-risk players and get one last chance to convince your favorites to stay. Track your recruits as they narrow down their top schools. Pitch a prospect to gain more interest, and then set up school visits when the timing is right. It's crucial to remain in their top 10, then 8, then 5, to finally be part of their top 3. As a recruit trims down to the top 8, you can attempt to increase your appeal. If your school doesn't have exactly what the prospect is looking for, you can try to sway their opinion in your favor. Plan visits that elevate a recruit's experience, like pairing a quarterback visit with a wide receiver visit at the same time. It's crucial to keep an eye on the transfer portal when it opens in the off-season to round out your roster with talent you couldn't land from recruiting. Add portal prospects to your board just like you would with recruiting, but expect quick decisions as transfers have a shorter timeline to land a new home. Conference realignment is a hot topic in college football. And with custom conferences in EA Sports College Football 25, Dynasty is yours to control. See what a 20-team super conference might look like, or revert to the traditional conference alignment. shape the conference size and membership, and set custom conference rules, set up divisions, and more. Once you've settled your conference options, it's time to select your team. Begin with a highly ranked team and dominate at the top with repeat recruiting and playoff success. Or build from the ground up with a smaller program and prove you have what it takes to go from an unknown to postseason favorite. We can't talk about your dynasty without talking about your starting job. Start as an offensive or defensive coordinator and climb the ranks to head coach, or take over a program as the head coach right away. Choose from one of the 3 base coaching types to start. Your coach type will determine what coaching skill tree you start with. From there, the abilities you acquire as you progress will determine what kind of coach you develop into. Unlock additional skill trees with better abilities. Or, if you build up multiple skill trees, you can unlock hybrid trees that leverage a more diverse skill set. The coaching carousel is an important part of every coach's journey. Whether you're the head man at your dream school or working your way up, the carousel is your way of fielding offers from other programs. Head coaches in Dynasty can actively manage their coordinator positions. So if one of your staff takes a job elsewhere, or you decide to cut ties for other reasons, you can use the carousel to replace them. Remember, even the greatest coaches need support, and every coach has a unique skill tree. It's important to think about how you want to build your staff, whether that's doubling down on your existing strengths to max out your benefits or seeking out balance for a well-rounded staff. Choose wisely. The decisions you make here will matter to your program's success and your coach's progression. The benefits of coach talents are stackable. So if your head coach and defensive coordinator have the same ability, the impact for that ability will be greater. Well, that's it for today's deep dive into Dynasty mode in EA Sports College Football 25. To make it game day every day this season.
All right. Well, that was a lot of fun. That's like the 3rd time I've seen the video. I'm sure all of you have seen it like probably several times over. Now, I have only read this blog post once. I want to go through it again. And again, I figured it'd be fun for us to go through it together. And I'm just going to take my time with it, and I'll just give you my reaction as I read it, and you guys can kind of chime in on your thoughts as well. So let's just start off with building Dynasty. Again, I'm going to read through every bit of this, and we got a whole lot to go through, so just hang tight and we'll get through it. So building Dynasty. So when we were in the early stages of designing Dynasty mode, we talked with members of the community, college football experts and coaches, read hundreds of blog posts and tweets, and watched countless wish list videos. We knew how important Dynasty was to our community, and we heard loud and clear that our players wanted a deep experience that is representative of the current college football landscape, where roster management and talent acquisition are at the forefront of successful programs. With this in mind, we anchored the experience around 3 core pillars: build your coach, build your program, and deliver the world of college football. Hopefully they can chime through and kind of come through on that, those 3 pillars. So let's just start off with building a coach. Build your coach. This encompasses the decisions you make on your coaching journey to the top of college football world, whether that's starting as a coordinator at a small school and making a name for yourself before getting that first head coaching job, or starting as a head coach at your dream school. Every decision you make on your journey matters. Now, when it comes to building your program, as the old saying goes, to win college football, it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes. Recruiting in the life is the lifeblood of college football, and having a consistent winner means you need a roster that is built to reload rather than rebuild. That all starts on the high school recruiting trail, but in the modern college football, roster retention and utilizing the transfer portal are instrumental in your ability to field a championship team. Okay, so deliver the world of college football. A lot has changed in college football over the last year, let alone the last 11 years, from the new 12-team college football playoff to a conference realignment. We set out to recreate the ever-changing world of college football within Dynasty and provide you with the tools to customize your experience. So just quickly on these 3, building your coach, it sounds like and it looks like they're bringing all of the RPG stuff back to your coach, which I'm all for. I love that. I'm perfectly fine with that. It just adds just more depth to your Dynasty. You got to think about you as a coach just as much as just building a roster and trying to win ball games. And the building your program, this is all pretty self-explanatory. It's just all, building a program and winning football games to go along with that. And they're giving us the customization tools to really create a dynasty however we want to the nth degree, it seems like. So underlying our 3 core pillars was one singular motto: satisfy the core community, because this is their game. Thank you, and God bless you for at least knowing that Dynasty mode actually matters to some of us out here instead of just, Ultimate Team and such. So here's just the first screen. I'm going to open this up just to get a little better view of it. So this is the play screen, or the main screen before you actually play a game. That looks not a whole lot different from NCAA 14. So you got your play game, you got your top stories, that's just your news and such. And looks like this particular player has not done any recruiting for that week. Then, of course, you can advance to the next week. And if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I played 14. You can kind of go back and forth between these. I'm pretty sure you can do all your recruiting and then go play this game. I would imagine that would be the case. I just want to come up here on the top right. Looks like we got these coins. Is that your coaching coins, I guess? That's what you earn to upgrade your coach and such. Joseph Luck, let me just see here. Coach, Colorado State coach, level 21, so he's pretty seasoned in what he can do. I'm just kind of looking to see if any other little nook or cranny I can find that's worth talking about. Okay, that looks pretty cool. So build your coach. Again, I'm really fascinated with this side of things. So your journey to the top of college football world starts with your coach. We wanted this to be meaningful and allow you to experience the coaching journey that no other sport can provide. We met with college football coaches and experts and started breaking down real-life coaches on the whiteboard. What was their identity? What made them great? What was their journey to get there? Where are they today? What we found was that both current and former coaches broadly fit into 3 main categories. Now, this is pretty neat. So some of them incredible recruiters, while others are motivators to maximize the potential of their players. And lastly, we got tacticians to try to out-scheme their opponents with on-the-field X's and O's. Let's keep reading here. There were also a number of coaches who were more of a hybrid between 2 categories. For example, there were coaches who were great at both recruiting and X's and O's. And breaking down hundreds of coaches, 2 things were loud and clear. No coach was great at everything, and there is no single path to being a great coach. So I wonder if this means, is it possible to max out every single thing with your coach? I don't know that yet. It may say this down here and I may have forgot it. So what about the greatest coaches of all time? Even they weren't great at everything and needed their coordinators. Let's look back at 2013. Alabama's offense had fallen behind. The world of college football offenses were changing, and it was changing quickly. They had to pivot and change their entire philosophy, bringing in an offensive guru who transformed the Alabama offense. I think they're talking about Lane Kiffin there, and put the program on an entirely new, 2013, that's older than that, my bad. Either way, to put on the program on an entirely new trajectory, playing into 6 of the next 8 national titles, while creating multiple first-round drafted quarterbacks. Let's see. All of our research and discussions led us to build a coach experience centered around 3 goals. Let's, just like the real world, no coach is great at everything. Rock, paper, scissors relationship between coach types and no dominant progression path. And coordinators and how you build your staff matters. So that's another cool thing I'm looking forward to get back into is, I don't even know, somebody asked me earlier if I want to start off being, which team I'm going to roll with. I don't even know if I'm going to start off as a head coach. I may want to start off as an offensive coordinator, just kind of get my feet wet on things I really care about out of the gate. So somebody asked me if I'm going to still offer updated 06 rosters. Yes, but I don't make the rosters. Other people do. Once they're offered, then I will offer them myself. So let's go to coach progression. Progressing your coach starts with playing games. As you play, you will complete coach goals that award XP. Once you earn enough XP, you will level up your coach to a maximum level of 50. Okay? And be awarded coach points. Coach points can be used to upgrade your coach's abilities. More on that later. There are 4 coach XP goal categories that can be in a single game, a weekly, season, or career goals. So here are the 4. Draft. Pro draft goals based on which round your player is drafted in. For example, player drafted in the first round. Game is individual game goals that range from a single player like interception, rushing, touchdown. Sounds very stat-based to a full game result. For example, beat your rival, beat a top 25 team, win a national title. Recruiting, determined by your success on the recruiting trail. Recruiting goals can be specific to a single prospect. For example, sign a 5-star prospect, or full season, like sign the best recruiting class in the country. So, okay, now they got one specifically for stats. So weekly goals, like rank to the top 10. Season stat goals, for example, like 4,000 team passing yards. That should be easy, depending on the offense you run. And rank top 5 in offensive yards, career, and goals like win 5 national titles. So you got career goals built into all of that. The number of times you have completed a goal and your progression towards goal completion can be viewed in the goals, in the Coach XP goal screen, which can be accessed via the Coach tab in the Dynasty Hub. We have also added 5 progression speed settings. I think that was no different 14. I think it had the same thing. So you can modify how fast your coach is progressing your dynasty. So over time, everybody's going to kind of have a sense of what the best setting that's going to be. Whether it's right in the middle, low, high, we won't know until we actually get to play this thing and probably play a few dynasties in. But here's another screen, another image I want to look at. And this is a coach screen. This is their game goals. And so just win a bunch, have some good stats, and that's just more experience earned. So you can put those into your coach and try to build him up and such. So nothing too revolutionary here, but it's still cool that it's in there, I guess. It's just another, indirect way just to advance your coach, just in terms of how good he is with whatever he's trying to be good at in terms of like recruiting or tactician or whatever. So each time you complete a goal in game, you'll receive a notification at the top left corner of the screen. The notification will describe the completed goal and XP reward. Here's another one. Let me see here. So, that's pretty cool. It notifies you. I did remember seeing this earlier. Yeah, so it notifies you if you completed certain goals. That's going to help with your XP. And again, you just boost up your coach pretty much. Pretty simple there. After completing a game or advancing the week, you'll receive an XP summary screen showing your progression of the next level. Again, I don't think this is anything truly new, but it's cool that it's in there. It shows you just how well you're doing, depending on, I guess, how the games are going. All right, coach archetypes. I'm really excited about this. So in College Football 25, we're introducing new archetype-based coach ability system. You could think of this similar to your traditional RPG classes. If anybody's really heavy into RPGs like me, I really enjoy those. This is a cool little addition. Of course, this was, again, was in 14 and such, where all of your party members have a specific class or archetype and role. Ultimately, in order for your team to be successful, all the players in your party must do their job and work together. Our system is no different. All coaches will start with a base class or coach archetype, which can be thought of as your special ability in a traditional RPG. Just like in our real-life coaches, the base archetypes fall into 3 categories: recruiting, motivation, and scheme. I wonder which one I would want to focus on first. I don't know. That's a whole lot to think about. I think for each new dynasty I would probably take a different approach to it. Like, this is my recruiting heavy dynasty or coach, and maybe I want to be an ultimate motivator, and then I can test out the scheme stuff. Then after that, I can go with kind of whatever I want to there. But that's cool that we got options with that. And it kind of forces you down a certain path, but you can still broad or advance, upward in different ways. All right. From your base archetype, you can progress in multiple ways. You can become an expert in a single category like recruiting, or you become an elite recruiter and excel on the recruiting trail. Alternatively, you can become a hybrid coach who is strong in multiple areas. Over time, I assume by the time you get to level 40, surely you could be pretty good at all 3, you would think. For example, a talent developer who is great at both talent acquisition, a la recruiting, and player development, a la motivation. The ultimate goal is to become a program builder or CEO atop the college football world. So it makes you wonder, when you start as a brand new coach, I assume you have to create your coach, and I assume you're forced to kind of start at the very bottom in terms of your class and what you're good at and such. And you really got to build that up. So I wonder how that interacts if I took over, say, LSU, who may not want me because I'm just not good enough. I don't know. That's just kind of a weird dynamic. It's just been so long since I played 14. I didn't know how it handled that. If anybody knows what I'm talking about there. So achieving an elite archetype like program builder or CEO is a combination of on-field success and ability progression. And just patience, I guess, and winning a ton over years and years and years to get there. There is no single formula to reach these statutes. You will be able to mix and match different ability combinations and progression paths, leading to a strong customization. So there's a lot of different ways to go about touching this, which I think is really cool. I'm just curious to see which way I'll go about doing it, but I do like the idea of like going really hard on all three of them at one point. Then you can do some hybrids. I mean, there's just so many ways to go about doing it, which is really neat. All right. In total, there are 11 different archetypes. Technically, you start out with 3, you pick one, but you can end up being one of 11 with each of their own focuses and perks. Together, they form a rock, paper, scissors relationship where there is no dominant archetype. While there is no doubt that talent acquisition is the most important thing in college football, focusing solely on recruiting could leave you vulnerable in other areas. Remember, no coach should be great at everything, I guess, unless you're Nick Saban or whatever. But every decision you make on your coaching journey matters. Once you purchase an ability, there is no going back, and you will not be able to respec your coach, which I'm actually all for that. I like RPGs where, I mean, you live by the choices you make. That is life. Life isn't fair. You have to make the right decisions. If you make wrong decisions, you just got to live with it and you got to move on. So I am all for not being able to respec right in the middle. It just won't make a lot of sense. So here is another screen. This is where you start off. You want to be a motivator, recruiter, or tactician. All really cool. All right, so how do I upgrade? Each archetype is has a set of prerequisites and objectives that must be completed in order to purchase them. For example, in order to become an elite recruiter, you must spend 50 coach points in the recruiter archetype and sign up the 2 top 5 recruiting classes. Once these goals are complete, the archetype becomes available for purchase with coach points. When creating a coach, you will select which base archetype you want to start with. The other 2 base archetypes will then be available for purchase with coach points without the need to meet any additional requirements. So you just kind of start off with a booster in a sense. Purchasing an archetype with coach points unlocks new sets of abilities as well as new opportunities in the coaching carousel. Additionally, each archetype has a perk when it is active. For example, Tactician has the winning perk, which awards additional coach XP every time you win a game. It's all very simple. Just win your ball games and do well doing it. And I mean, then you can just kind of spec however you want. Your active archetype is automatically determined. If you own the program builder or CEO archetypes, they will always be your active archetypes, regardless of how many points you've spent in other ones. If you do not own these archetypes, your active archetype is the archetype. Say that 8 times over. You have to spend the most coach points in. All owned coach abilities are always on, regardless of which archetype is currently active. So you can have multiple. That's interesting. Yes, I agree with that. Locking things behind requirements, I agree with that. I'd like to get more information on kind of what all the little specs are and such. We'll get that eventually. Your progress can be viewed in the coach ability screen, which is accessible from the coach tab in the Dynasty Hub. Within the screen, you can see all the available archetypes, their unlock requirements and perks, and your overall progression in each archetype. As you spend coach points in each archetype, the spider graph in the center of the screen will morph and change to show your coach's DNA. Let's take a look at that. So this is our little spider graph, and we don't know exactly what all these are just yet. Some things are locked and whatnot, but it kind of shows you where this guy is kind of going in his archetype. It looks like he's going over here in that direction. And let's just see. He's a motivator. Let me see. This is motivator. Culture setter, who is strong in player development. Let me see here. Archetype perk, grow together. This is just an example. Gain XP whenever a player levels up. Have 5 players drafted. And spend 50 in motivator. So it just, wow, there's a lot of depth in here. Really neat. Interesting. Cool. All right, big game bonus. Additional XP for winning bowl games and a national title. That's what that is, apparently. Okay, let's back out of here. How do the abilities work? Once you own an archetype, you can purchase the abilities within it using coach points. Simple enough. In College Football 25, we are introducing more than 50 coach abilities. And there are, 11 total archetypes? So technically 50 divided by 3. Those are your 3 base ones. Did I say player levels? I don't remember saying that. I think it's coach levels. But more than 50 coach abilities. Each ability can have up to 4 tiers, and every tier has a purchase cost associated with it. Each archetype, with the exception of Scheme Guru, Program Builder, and CEO, has their abilities broken down by position group, which is really cool. So like if you want to be like really dead set on being a quarterback guru, you can kind of do that in a sense. This increases the level of depth and specialization each coach has. Really neat. So again, if I'm running, what's a good example? Like if I'm running an air raid offense, maybe I just need to be really specialized in wide receivers. Maybe I want to put more of my coaching ability points into those coach abilities that are centered around wide receivers. I think I'm reading that correctly. No longer is a coach great at recruiting across the board. Now coaches will specialize in specific position groups. Awesome. Really cool. I love that layer of depth. Now it just kind of has my mind spinning. Now you got to think about scheme. I want to run a 3-4. What do I want to specialize in? Do I want to specialize in my linebackers? Do I want to specialize in my defensive line? Again, there's just so many ways you can go about doing that. Really neat. Making your staff composition that much more important. I agree. So that's another thing. If you're a head coach, you got to think about your two coordinators and what they're good at. Do you want all three of you guys to specialize all in recruiting or whatnot? Do you want a nice balance? Are you a quarterback whisperer? Are you great in the trenches and committed to the no-fly zone? How does your staff complement you? Okay. In addition to the position-based boost, again, which I love, there are also coach abilities with core gameplay effects so you can really cook. For example, the Scheme Guru archetype focuses on your gameplay style. If you are a coach who likes to play fast, you can upgrade fast tempo offense, providing you with the following boost. Battery pack, which offensive players fatigue slower in a hurry up. Caught napping, that increases the delay to defenders looking to the sideline at the snap. Tier 3, team composure boost for first downs gained while running, hurry up. And Tier 4 is chance to see the defense's coverage shell in a hurry up. Interesting. So if you are running the veer and shoot or any just heavy up-tempo offense, you may want to start thinking about putting some points over here. So again, it really just kind of depends on what kind of offense and defense you want to get into. Really neat. All right, let's move on. You can also make your team well-oiled machine who doesn't work against themselves and is unfazed by rowdy home field crowds by upgrading the discipline/communication ability. On offense, this provides, for example, heat blockers. It's a slight reduction in crowd noise impact on the road. Teflon is Tier 2, significant reduction of crowd noise impact on the road. Offensive players will commit slightly fewer penalties. That's Tier 3. And then offensive players will commit significantly fewer penalties. I could say that would be very useful for every team you take over, I would imagine. I mean, you always want to be sound and play well on the road and such. So I think that would go well regardless, but especially on offense and such. So either way, that's another just nice little thing. Of course, balance is critically important here. So there are defensive counters to all of the offensive play style abilities. Is your defense looking a little sus, or are you tired of getting punched in the mouth by physical ground and pound team? Upgrade your ground and pound defense to become a stat run defense and reduce the effects of physical offense continually running the ball. Interesting. So the thing is, it doesn't factor in your roster turnover. Sometimes you just can't help it. You're going to have some years where your defensive line is just down unless you just absolutely recruit well for that unit. The program builder and CEO archetypes are different in that they are only available to head coaches. Makes sense. The abilities within them are diverse and range from roster management and program culture to home field advantage and recruiting pipeline boost. Let's see what we got here. Coach abilities. This is recruiter. Looks like they highlighted this one. Running game, purchase upgrades for recruiting running backs and fullbacks. So I can see how that would be great if you're a run heavy team or at least somewhat balanced. And then you got Tier 1, Tier 2. Looks like they've already got those. For example, running backs take less time to fully scout. Recruiting actions give a bonus to running backs. So my guess, this is quarterbacks. These are your running backs right here, those abilities. This could be anything else, special teams. It could be anything. Either way, again, you're kind of really focusing on your running backs in terms of like recruiting and such. So, wow, it goes pretty in depth. Pretty neat. All right, so what about coordinators? Let me take a drink of water first. Anybody have any questions, thoughts? I'm gladly answer them and talk with you about it. Again, I'm really excited about the coaching side of things. I think it's just really neat. Again, we've had a lot of this in 14, so not a lot of this is like brand new, but it just adds another layer of depth. And for you just got to think about your coach just as much as your roster, which is pretty cool. All right, so what about coordinators? Both coordinators, yes, the depth, I'm all for this. I know some people, it may be a little too much for them. I can kind of get that. Some people just want to play and just recruit. I don't know if you can toggle any of the RPG stuff off. I'm guessing you can't, but I'm okay with that. But me growing up playing so many RPGs over the years, I'm all for it. I'm used to diving into stuff like that. All right, so let's talk about the coordinators. I'm really excited about this part. Both coordinators and head coaches have the same set of abilities and archetypes available to them, leading to a natural progression from coordinator to head coach and increased importance on staff management, where your coordinators either complement your strengths or shore up your deficiencies. Remember, no coach can be great at everything, so it's critical that your coordinators complement you. I wonder how important this really is. Like, is this caked into the game? Like, hey, we really suggest you go get some coordinators that are really strong in areas that you are not. Again, that's common sense. You want to have guys that can really complement you. I get that, but I'm just curious. There's going to be a bunch of people out there who's going to test this. Hey, let's just get nothing but recruiters and see what happens. You'll probably end up with like a Jeremy Pruitt situation. Don't get me started on that. But anyway, I think that is interesting. But I think this is probably the best way to go about doing it. If you are a scheme guy, you better have one of your coordinators be really good recruiters. That makes sense to me. From what I've seen and read, the coordinators are super important. And it sounds like it's more important than in 14. I like that their abilities and such play a factor into this. And it could have been like that in 14. Forgive me, it's been a while since I played it. All right, all the abilities of your coach's staff own stacked together. That just answered my question pretty much. Increasing the effect of an ability. Abilities owned by the head coach have the greatest impact, which makes sense. The impact of coordinator-owned abilities depends on whether or not the ability is related to their side of the ball. For example, a defense coordinator having the quarterback icy veins ability, which boosts your quarterback's composure at the beginning of the game, will have a much smaller effect than an offensive coordinator owning it. Let me read that again. Just make sure I understand that. So the impact of coordinator-owned abilities depends on whether or not the ability is related to that side of the ball. Okay, for example, a DC having the QB icy veins ability, which boosts your quarterback's composure at the beginning of the game, will have a much smaller effect than an offensive coordinator owning it. I get, okay. That makes sense. I kind of get that now. Okay, so that's good. The coordinators just don't do a whole lot in 14, as much as it sounds like it's in this one. I'm glad that the coordinators are a big deal here, and as they should be. Otherwise, what's the point of putting them in, other than just giving it another way to play the game? Your coordinators will automatically progress their archetypes and abilities, as expected. You will not be able to control which abilities they purchase, which I'm glad, nor will you be able to respec your coordinator's abilities. Again, those are just separate dudes that just do their own thing, and you just got to hope that they help out your program. I'm all for that. This adds even more importance to how you progress your coach and manage your staff in the coaching carousel. So after a year or so, if you feel like your recruiter, defensive coordinator just isn't really jiving with you, I guess you can replace him with somebody else. And that's another thing. We'll get into the coaching carousel down here somewhere, I reckon. But that's just really cool that they seem to just have more importance in the game than before. You can view the abilities of coordinators, your own coordinators from the within the coach abilities screen by tabbing left or right, blah, blah, blah. Okay, each coach will have a unique spider graph, no different than your own, and their abilities and archetypes they own. Pressing R3 will overlay all the three coaches' spider graphs so you can quickly see where your staff is deficient. I like that. Again, this is like the head coach. Looks like they're highlighting the master motivator. It looks like, yes, that's what he is. So these are the archetypes. Let me just make sure I get that right. These are the actual archetypes. I think I'm right on that. Can anyone run through a brick wall? Just looking at the archetype perk, let's grow. Bigger XP gain whenever a player levels up. Okay, so you see the three right here. I just now noticed this. So these are your two coordinators, and this is you right here. So that's cool. You can see all three at once. That will help you make decisions on whether you kind of need to think about starting increasing more of your abilities on this side or whatever. Again, it's all up to you how you want to do that. All right, climbing the coaching ladder. Now, here's another thing I'm really excited about. because I like the idea of maybe being a coordinator at the beginning and kind of just working on one side of the ball and see how that works. Everybody knows me. I really enjoy offense. I'll probably start off as an OC, but I'm curious to see how this progresses because from what I remember, a lot of people really didn't like the coach carousel in 14. Like it was just very random. A lot of decisions didn't make a whole lot of sense. It's very possible that can happen in this game. So I'm kind of keeping my expectations low on coaching carousel logic. But let's see what it says here. So your journey starts when you sign your first coach contract. When creating your dynasty, you will have the option to select whether you want to be a head coach, OC, or DC. Coordinators have performance expectations, just like a head coach. All roles will have full control of recruiting and be able to play both sides of the ball during gameplay. All right, so every time you start a new coaching job, you'll be asked to sign a contract with that school. The contract will have a set contract length and performance expectations, just like in real life. Failure to meet those expectations will result in bad things happening. School expectations are determined by the school's current team prestige and program standing. The better the school, the higher the expectations. There are 4 types. You got to win a certain amount of games, conference championship, playoff, and win a national championship. Pretty simple. It's all come down to winning. That's pretty much what all this is about. So let's move down here. Your job security will fluctuate throughout the season based on the results. And I just kind of noticed this bar right here. I'm not even like a fourth of the way through, so I probably need to speed this up. So forgive me if I speed this up a little bit. I'm just kind of looking here. Let's see. If you don't like your possibility of being fired, you can always turn off your coach firing in your dynasty settings. Okay, let me read that again. Of course, if you don't like the possibility of being, okay, you can just turn off whether you can get fired or not. Job security, I think this is all pretty normal. All coaches have a coach prestige letter grade. It ranges from A+ to F. That's pretty simple there. At the end of your contract, school will evaluate. Okay, this is all stuff we've seen before. This isn't like brand new. Don't worry, automatic acceptance of contract extensions does not mean that you are unable to change jobs. You can leave for a new job at any point, regardless of your status. Okay, your current coach contract, security status can be assessed from the coach tab. Let's see, in your school season by season results the last 20 years. When signing your contract, you'll have the opportunity to look at the last 20 years and see what kind of program you are taking over. Oh, I like this. So when signing, yeah, I remember this part. Last 20 years, you can see the program progress. So that's good. Instead of the last year, I think the older games, we only got to see the previous year, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, your program history will continue to update over time. So this is just showing the progress of that team, and this is a 3-year contract. If you want to take over Oregon, it just shows you can go all the way back here and kind of see how well they've done, which is cool. What's this number right here? What's the y-axis? 16, 15. Is that just how many? Oh, that's how many wins. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's wins. My bad. All right, let's move on. Coach Carousel. Let's see. Suddenly high pro. Okay. How does carousel work? I want to get down here. So the carousel kicks off during the conference championship week. During this week, all coach so this is cool. So this isn't at the end of the season like we're used to. It's as soon as conference championship week hits. So the SEC title game, this is when teams or coaches start getting fired. So that's realistic. During this week, all coach contracts and process, the schools determine if they want to fire, extend, or let coaches go. If you're the head coach, you'll also be able to fire your coordinators this week. So again, we can fire coaches and make those changes before the season truly ends. And now I kind of get that. Some teams, their season ends at the end of the season. They didn't do well enough to compete for a conference title, that kind of thing. But it's just cool that this stuff happens technically when the season is not over with yet. Once you advance to the week and arrive in bowl season, the first round of jobs offer go out. If you received any job offers, you'll be notified via an action, view job offers. If you do not receive any offers, you will have a generic action item called Coach Carousel. So whenever you see this, that means somebody offered you something, whatever that could be. Just because you didn't receive any offers in the first week of bowl season, or if you didn't like the offers you received, doesn't mean your carousel experience is over. Remember, the coach carousel takes place over the course of multiple weeks. The first week of bowl season is just the beginning, so it's a full process. And somebody can remind me how 14 was. Was it like a several week process to go through the whole coach carousel? It very well could have been. When viewing a job offer, you will see the coach's new coach preferences, what happened to the previous coach. Oh, that's cool. You can see what happened to the other guy, other than probably got fired or just moved on. This allows you to take one last ride with your current. Okay, let me read this. Okay, so, and who the top candidates are for the job. Oh, that's really cool. It shows you who is in the running for it as well. You also see the contract they are offering and what the contract expectations are. Once you accept an offer, you will stay with your current school until after the national title game, which is when all job changes are processed. This allows you to take one last ride with your current team and coach any bowl games they play in. Okay, so it was just a single week experience. This seems like it's a full dynamic 4 to 5 week deal, and I like that. So the coach carousel is so much fun in real life. Who's going where? It's a big deal, especially in college football, and I'm glad they seem to recognize that, hey, this is a dynamic thing. It's just not a tacked on thing. It's important. It impacts the game as a whole, and I really agree with that. There will be a countdown in the top right corner of the Dynasty Hub informing you of how many weeks remaining until you change jobs. Okay, so if you accept a head coach position, you'll be able to manage your staff and hire coordinators at your new school during the rest of the carousel period. If you are fired or your contract expired and you do not accept the new job before the end of the carousel, you will be automatically placed on a new team. So you can't take a year off. Like, who would do that? So I kind of understand that. So you better be careful. You better go accept something. Otherwise, the game is going to put you somewhere. That sounds new. I could be wrong. All right. So how do schools determine who they want to hire? This should be interesting. Each school has a school persona, which determines what they are looking for in their next coach. Schools will evaluate candidates across the following criteria. Level. The higher a coach's level, the more powerful they are and the more abilities they have. Schools are always looking for the highest caliber coach they can find. At least you would think so. There's plenty of dumb ADs out there and boosters who don't agree with that. I should know as a Tennessee Vol fan. Scheme. Certain schools, like the military academies, want a coach who runs a specific style of offense or defense. So I'm going to have a whole lot of fun going through each one of these teams and seeing what their credentials are, what they are looking for. This is something I would put on the website. So let me just go over here while I'm here. If you go over to the website, I already have, you go over to game info, I already got a college football 25 page, and this is where I got all my videos and such. But I'm going to put in here, of course, I'm going to capture all the playbooks, but I also wouldn't mind putting other information like credentials for all of these teams and what they're looking for. Just gives you something to look at before you head into the off season and you got to go through your coaching changes and such. So hopefully that'll be helpful. Archetype coach, schools have preference on the type of coach they are looking to hire. Just like the real world blue bloods prefer elite coaches who are a program builder or CEO. Again, that's pretty simple. All right. Pipeline. All coaches have a primary pipeline, which provides a boost in recruiting. This is meant to simulate an area of the country where they have strong ties and relationships in recruiting. I think this is pretty cool. Do we get to pick our pipeline? I think we do. I think I saw that earlier on one of the coach's screens when you're creating your coach, but to be able to have your own specialized pipeline, I think is neat. And it's depending on the coach and what they like to go for. Schools prefer coaches whose primary pipelines is the same on the school's recruiting pipelines. So I wonder if this means, hey, my favorite pipeline is Northeast Georgia, but then I go take over Washington. Does that mean I still need to go recruit the Atlanta area if that's my primary pipeline or whatnot? I'm not really sure. But either way, it's cool that it's in there. Coach prestige. A coach prestige is compared against the school's team prestige. A 5-star program is not going to hire a coach who is a mid and only C- coach. So yes, I'm all for adding as much reference and information as I can to the site so you guys can look at that. I'll just try not to forget to do that, especially after I get done with adding all the playbooks and such. Let's see, you get to pick. You got to pick Tennessee as yours to start. That should be interesting. I agree. Together, these form overall school fit score. I like this. This makes sense that they're adding this. I want each team to feel kind of different other than, to me, like every 5-star program in NCAA 06 or 14 or wherever, they all feel the same. They're all just 5-star programs. So this is school fit. And it's going to make it feel like every team is truly different in terms of what they're looking for. Okay, pretty cool. So let's go to game theory and domino effect. It is important to keep in mind the domino effect when you are evaluating whether or not to accept an offer. Just because a job isn't open today doesn't mean it won't be available next week. So this is another cool dynamic. Just because a job isn't open today doesn't mean it won't be open next week. So the floodgates just don't open that first week. They continue to open. You can look at all your current job openings by using let's say every job. Let's see. You can also view all the coach movements across the college football world in the staff move screen. I want to look at this screen up more close. Let's just see your coach carousel. So it looks like the Memphis head coaching job is open. I actually need to bring up my little highlighter. Let me do that. Make it a little bit easier. There we go. So I just wanted to bring this up. Let's see. Alma mater, strategist. Okay. This is what I wanted to say. New coach preferences. Primary archetype. They want somebody who's a strategist. So if you are a recruiter, you may not fit what they're looking for. They're also, it shows you, oh, this is really cool. They say what their preference is by scheme, which I find really interesting. Hey, my AD, this makes sense. This is real life, what we're looking at right here. It says this AD really likes a spread good guy coming through here to help out. So the previous head coach was Bill Straight. I wonder if this is a CPU name, I'm guessing. But anyway, so he was a scheme guru in a new job. So this makes sense. This happens all the time. So when a coach gets fired, a lot of times they're looking for the exact opposite of what they just had because it didn't work. So if they're thinking, oh man, this recruiter came in and he was terrible coach. We lost a bunch of games. Let's go find somebody who's better at scheming or whatever. And that kind of relates to this. So that's pretty cool. So here are your top candidates. You got an architect, a motivator, you got a master motivator, and it shows you if you are in there. So it looks like, I assume this is your player icon. This is you. It shows you how old you are. I guess that's what the age. I guess that's what that means. That could be a level. My guess is, no, I take that back. That's probably a level. And that's the team you're currently with. But that's pretty cool. I like this. So I wonder if this, as long as this isn't dynamic, I will capture all of this for everybody. And people could go, and it may take a while because not all of these jobs will open up, especially the HC and the OC, things of that nature. But over time, I can definitely do this. I'm guessing this isn't dynamic. I could be dead wrong. I don't know. Either way, let's keep going. Managing your staff. This should be interesting. So managing your staff starts during conference championship week. During this time, you'll be able to fire and hire and all that good stuff. Your coordinators will not leave unless you fire them. Or they are hired by another school. Each coordinator has a standard 2-year contract. Once the contract expires, it will automatically be renewed for another 2 years. So you kind of have to pay attention. If you don't want that guy, of course, you can still just fire him whenever you want. Of course, if you don't like them, you can always tell them they can fire you. Okay, it just answered my question. So if your coordinator has 1 year left remaining on the current contract, there's a chance they'll be poached and leave for another school. All right, that's pretty cool. Welcome to the team. Starting in bowl week week 1, you can hire new coordinators if you have an open position. When you go hire a new coordinator, you will be presented with a list of candidates, and it just kind of shows you kind of what all they can do. When you make an offer to a coach, it's not guaranteed that they will accept it. You can offer 1 coach per position each week. So you got to be careful here who you can't just offer. That makes sense. This actually makes sense here. You can only offer 1 coach per position each week. Oh, maybe it's just talking about specific coaches. Okay, that makes more sense. All right, when you advance the week and re-enter the screen, you will find out whether or not they have accepted your offer. If they did, they would join your program after the national title game when we process all coach moves. If they rejected your offer, you will have the opportunity to offer another coach. So I guess you can't try it again. I think once somebody rejects you, I guess you're just wasting your time from them. I don't know if you can motivate them to maybe sway him or something. You will always have at least 1 coach available to hire who does not require you to compete with another school. If at the end of the coach carousel you have not been able to fill a position, you'll automatically be given a new coordinator. So I guess it's possible if you're just terrible at offering jobs to coordinators, the game will assign one to you. I'm guessing it won't be a good one. I guess. Let's just look here. So staff management, here's the HC, the DOC, and job opening. Hire a coach, and then I guess it just brings up your candidate list and such. Oh, we got options. I'm so sorry. I forgot that we got these little options right here. There we go. Let me open up this one. So this is the candidates. DC, here's a DC, Danny White, Ball State. He runs a 3-4 multiple. He's a pipeline. His North Texas. Again, is this really cool to you, or is it cool to me? I think it's just cool all around. Pipelines are not state-based. They are region-based. North Texas is a pipeline. So you got to think of that. Actually add some strategy to it. If you are taking over Tulsa, and of course, Texas is a big pipeline for you in general. You want to recruit the state of Texas. Maybe it's in your best interest to hire this defense coordinator who can come down here and have a pipeline, which is North Texas. That makes sense to me, as opposed to somebody like Central Florida. You know, if you are taking over Oregon State, it's probably not the best idea to go after this guy unless you just want to do that. But either way, I just think that's just really neat. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I like that. Can I go with the next one from here? No, I can't. Let me go back out. Let me go to the next one. Hit this. And let me open up this one. So it looks like he hired him. That's what he done. He hired him. Offer pending. Oh, okay. My bad. He hasn't accepted it. Yeah, I guess you got to wait till the next week for that to happen. Either way, really cool. We got regional pipelines. It's not just state-based. All right. Build your program. Let me see here. We'll begin design process at the same time. Let's see. Lastly, we spend time with our community. Okay. Let's look at these bullet points. Ultimately, we landed on 4 goals when building a program. That's their goals. That's not mine. The stage recruiting. All right. In College Football 25, we are introducing a new staged recruiting experience built around 3 distinct phases: discovery, pitch, and close. Just like the real world, every recruit will be in a different stage of their process. Where they are in the process will dictate how you interact with them and the level of engagement they require. Recruiting begins with discovery. In this initial stage, you are finding which prospects to target, what are the skills are, and what they care most about. This stage is all about uncovering information about the recruit as quickly as possible. The sooner you can discover how well they align with your program, the better, as time is of the essence. Let's see. Once a recruit announces his top 5, it's time to pitch. So okay, that makes sense. During the pitch phase, you are selling the recruit on your program and what they offer, how well your school aligns with their motivations, and will determine how successful you are. The final stage is close. This is when you bring the recruit in for an official visit. Okay, so none of this is really new per se, but they at least bring out the whole thing in stages a little more distinctly, I guess. Ultimately, the recruit will make their final decision on National Signing Day. So does this mean, okay, I got to read this. Okay, the final stage is to close. This is when you bring the recruit in on an official visit and attempt to leave a lasting impression about your program. If the visit goes well, you will make huge gains with the recruit and possibly secure a verbal commitment following the visit. Ultimately, the recruit will make the final decision on National Signing Day. So this means, what this tells me, this is like in real life. They're committed. That's excellent. I love it. However, they may back off that commitment. That's what that tells me. Unless I am reading that differently, unless I just need to read more down below, they may not talk about it more. Are you guys seeing the same thing I am? To me, that just means ultimately their final decision is on National Signing Day. So, which I think is good if it's realistic, if that's what I'm thinking it is. All right, before we dive deeper, let's start by discussing how every program recruit is unique. Okay, when it comes to your school, let's see, assist. Let me just read up here. All right, when we talk about what there being 134 ways to play, we are talking more than just on-field gameplay. Every school is graded from D- to A+. Here are the 14 categories your school grades. So let's talk about these. Playing time. This represents how long it'll take for a player to become a starter at the position. Playing time is individualized to each recruit and player based on their position group and overall. Playing style, I don't need to read all these, but we kind of know what they are. Playing style, championship contender, program tradition, campus lifestyle, stadium atmosphere, pro potential, brand exposure. Then you got your prestiges, academic, conference, coach. Then you got coach stability, athletic facilities, and proximity to home. So there are 14 of those. You just have to really pay attention. If you are terrible at athletic facilities, this is probably down to the lower tier teams, I guess. and it's just dead set. Your 3-star punter that you just got to have really wants good athletic facilities. You may not get him. So that's pretty simple. I wonder if you can flip players who are verbal to others. It's possible. I don't know. That's going to be interesting. I don't think they really dived into that super hard. So each grade has a unique set of grading criteria. For example, playing time is graded on per player basis. The player's overall or projected overall is compared to the team's roster to project how many years it will take for that team for them to become a starter. That's interesting. So they factor that in. That's nothing we can control, so I can't worry too much about that. Actions you take on the recruiting trail will impact. Yes, we get that. On the other hand, championship contenders use a combination of your top 25 poll ranking. Again, this is out of your control, but I wonder, can we improve this stuff? I feel like we could. That's the only thing I want to see. If we can't improve on, I assume some things you can improve, like some things you cannot. Athletic facilities, I don't see how you can improve that unless there is a coach XP or ability that you can pump into that to make that better. I'm just not really sure. Most grades update dynamically throughout the season. I'm curious to see how they get affected. Like, for example, I got to go back up here. So like facilities, the grade measures the quality of athletic facilities for the program. Waterfalls at barbershops are a plus here. So I assume this is out of our control. So it is what it is, which is fine. To me, that makes complete sense. Let's go down and look at this right here. We got a couple of images here to look at. So here are the 14 abilities, and they're going to highlight the academic prestige. At least it tells you what it is, which is nice. It's determined by success off the field and is not impacted by football activities. Academic prestige can't be improved by user actions. At least it tells you that. So if a kid is just dead set on going to an academic prestige school and you are the head coach at Cincinnati or Louisville, no offense to those schools, you're probably not going to get that kid if that's such a big deal for him. Again, it's just kind of a waiting game. It's just sort of like you got to find the balance and hopefully you match what they're looking for. So it sounds like the whole thing is based off fit as opposed to I can just out recruit you unless you use coach abilities that you can really persuade kids beyond what they're looking for. That's the kind of way I take all of that. I also want to look up top right here. So 35 targets total. I think that was no different than in 14. Hours, I've seen this change all over the place. I think it just depends on which team I think I saw one team had like 1,200 hours in a season. Or in a week. I'm just assuming that is geared towards your heavy duty, your big time programs, your top 10s and such. Scholarships, you can have up to 35 scholarships. And one thing we haven't mentioned yet, your roster, you can have up to 85 instead of 70. I know a lot of people have wanted that. So here's another cool thing. Team prestige. You have 3.5 stars. So technically you can go into half. What does that say? Team prestige is the complete value of all its my school grades. Either way, so it doesn't go from 5 to 4 to 3 to 2. It goes from 5 to possibly 4.5 to 4 to 3.5 to 3. So just a little bit of things like that you got to pay attention to when you're looking at some of this stuff that they may not talk about in the blog. All right, let's go down here. Let's say here's another one. Let's just go straight to this. So this is Team Prestige, players at risk. Overall, I think these are the kids that you're going for, more players. These are kids you're going after. Risk of these are your current players. I'm sorry. These are your current players. Risk of transfer. My school update. I should have paid attention to that. Just reading along here. My school, top schools. Oh, this is going by rank. Oh, it's cool. It breaks it down by the grades and such. That's cool. Again, I'm just kind of seeing these really for the first time, the images. I just kind of read it the first time. So this is really neat. I know they're going to talk about the transfer stuff here in a little bit. Recruits and where they come from. Okay, each season, more than 3,500 recruits. Everybody's excited about that. Are generated from across the country. Certain regions will be more consistent in caliber, quality, and type of recruits that produce. For example, Southern California is known for producing great quarterback talent, while East Texas consistently produces some of the best wide receivers in the country. However, we didn't stop there. We wanted to go deeper to ensure that we were capturing the authenticity of high school talent. Yes, East Texas is known for producing great receivers, but more specifically, they are known for how big and physical receivers are. As a result, you're going to see bigger and more physical receivers coming out of East Texas, whereas South Florida, you're going to have produce incredibly fast, deep threat receivers, a smaller size. So I don't think that'll be like all inclusive. Like I can only recruit big receivers out of East Texas, but I think the game is generating players kind of in a certain direction, kind of sort of. I don't think this will be too overblown, but it's cool that they've thought about that. Hey, East Texas, it just tends to produce big receivers. Let's just pump a little bit over in that direction for those types of receivers. What a recruit cares about, we kind of know what they care about. Let's say there's a chance that one of the 3 ideal pitch motivations is also a deal breaker. I thought deal breakers was interesting. Represent a motivation that recruit is extremely passionate about and will not budge on. If you do not satisfy the deal breaker, they will not talk with you. The deal is, I'd like to know how quickly we can figure out what that deal breaker is. Additionally, a deal breaker stays with a player forever, so once you are on your roster, they will still have the same deal breaker they had when you recruited them to your school. That's interesting. You can think of this like your promise to them. If you failed to upload your side of the deal, there's a chance they will decide to enter the transfer portal at the end of the season. So it's another layer to roster management. It's real life, though. I mean, it just is. And I think it's interesting that deal breaker stays with a player forever. So you just have to babysit everybody. Now you kind of see why a lot of head coaches from college football are moving on or just want to do other things, because it's just a whole layer of things you got to keep up with, especially when that transfer portal hit. So recruiting pipelines, we analyzed this historical recruiting data. It was clear that in the days age of recruiting is still highly regionalized. We discussed various recruiting strategies and tactics with current and former coaches, in particular how they handled recruiting in different areas of the country. All of our research and discussion led us to a new way of thinking about pipelines in college football 25. First and foremost, it was clear that not every state is created equal when it comes to recruiting talent pipelines. Having a pipeline in Florida is much more valuable than one in New York. This made clear that the traditional approach to having each state be its own pipeline wouldn't accurately represent the recruiting landscape. One of our goals was to balance pipelines in terms of the quality and quantity and quality of recruits that come from them, as well as how schools tend to look at them. The result was reshaping pipelines to represent geographical regions rather than states. For example, Florida is now broken into 3 different pipelines. You got North, Central, and South. Similarly, Metro Atlanta is its own pipeline. So I wonder how many total pipelines there are. In total, there are 50. Okay, there it is. That answered my question. That's interesting. So there are a total of 50 pipelines in college football 25, which equals the amount of states. But Alaska is not a pipeline. I'm just assuming that it's not. I'm guessing certain regions are clumped together, like Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire. There's probably like a Northeast, New England-ish type pipeline, because there's not a lot of talent that comes up there, if that makes sense. I think that's kind of the way I'm looking at that. All right, with our newly shaped pipelines, the next step was to look at every school's recruiting class each of the last 10 years to identify which parts of the country they primarily recruit in. Using this data, we developed a tier ranking system to represent how strong a school is in the given pipeline. This is interesting, so it depends on the school you're with. Each pipeline has 5 levels, and every other school was given a pipeline level based on historical data. The higher your pipeline level, the stronger your influence is in the region. They will boost a recruit's initial interest in your school and impact your pitches. Interesting. School's pipeline will never change. This is something to remember. A school's pipeline will never change, which assures the schools who are historically strong recruiters in a given region will always have an advantage, which is good. This is more information I can throw up on the site for reference. Generally speaking, your school's pipelines will heavily influence the type of players you'll be able to get, where they are from. That's pretty simple. Together, pipelines and deal breakers create a much more realistic and less exploitable recruiting experience. While it's still possible to land 4 stars at a small school, it will require the right fit. Again, I think this is a key word when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to your coaches, everything, fit. And a heavy investment in resources and time. All right, initial interest in top schools. Every recruit will start with a list of schools they're interested in. When a recruit generates, yes, we kind of get all this. Similarly, most top schools for a prospect who values academics are going to be similar to one another. For example, at Rice, you will often see that the recruits who are interested in your school are also interested in Vanderbilt, Northwestern, Stanford due to the high academic prestige. Yeah, we kind of get that. So here we got another screen. Let's look at this. So weekly advanced summary. So these are all the players that you're currently going after, and it tells you the news. Like this guy committed. You've reached his top 3, so on and so forth. So it's highlighting this kid over here. And let me just read it. He's from Nevada. So we're number 1 on his list. Oh yeah, he committed. Never mind. So he committed. I wonder if this means I think he's committed for good. I honestly think that's what that means. I could be dead wrong. Maybe not. Maybe USC is kind of still right in the thick of it to the very end. Who knows? Discovery. Okay, I'm not going to read all. I'm still like barely halfway through this thing. Prospect identification, position, player type, state. Let's see. It'll be difficult to recruit if you create a school. I'm curious to see how that's going to affect. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know if that's going to be. That'll be interesting. You can't just. I guess when you probably get to the create a school, the team builder mode, you can go in and probably tell it which pipelines are attached to it and whatnot. I guess that's how that's going to work. Let me just go through here. Here's another one. I just want to see some of the images here. So recruiting, here's your prospect list. I think this is based off if you just need actual bodies there at outside linebacker, at guard. There's a name, rating, interest, stage, state, pipeline. Now, can somebody chime in here? I wonder what the 3 and the 5 and the 2 and the colors are. They may have talked about that earlier and I just missed it. What class they're in, they're all high schoolers, and if you've offered or not. Like in this particular example, this guy did not offer him yet, but looks like he has 5 offers already. Looks like he's got a deal breaker, brand exposure. Like he wants to play for a big time name. I guess that's what that means. So if you got at least a B- or better, you still have a chance. It's the level of pipeline for your school. Okay. Let's see. Team needs. Let me look at this right here. And forgive me, we'll be here for like another 2 hours if I just read every little thing. But let's just see. Team need. Now, I think this is really cool. This is a new addition. So when you highlight quarterback, it shows you all of your quarterbacks along with your targets. This is a great, and I mean great addition. I love this in spades. It shows you their overall, who they are, just everything you need to know along with the guys you were recruiting. Good idea, whoever came up with this thing on the right there. It's just this is the best way to summarize kind of what's going on with your program. Really cool there. Recruiting hours. I need to read this. So again, the team with a higher prestige will have more recruiting hours each week, which I said that earlier. So this is meant to model the recruiting resources a program has, with higher tier programs having significantly more resources available to them. For example, in the preseason, a 5-star program will have 1,000 recruiting hours compared to only 350 for a 1-star program. And if I'm not mistaken, did I miss that? Is that per week? Or is that for an entire season? I'm pretty sure it's for an entire season. Because there's not even 1,000 hours in a week, is there? I'm an idiot. Okay, my bad. So that should be for the entire season. Either way, it makes sense. The bigger, better program you are, the more recruiting hours you're going to have. So this is the big currency. It's just hours. Let's see. Recruiting board. Let me see. My maximum of 70 hours. Okay, let me read this. In addition to the maximum recruiting hours you can spend each week, each prospect has a maximum number of hours that you can spend on them in a given week. The default maximum is 50 hours. There we go. I know that's per player, but this can be increased to a maximum of 70 with the always be recruiting ability in that position. Oh, that's nice. So if you just are dead set on we're just going the extra mile with some of these players, you may want to pick up that ability. Recruiting board is where you'll spend the bulk of your time recruiting. It's going to talk about the layout. Select a recruit. You'll always dive deeper to begin an interaction with them at the top of the screen. I want to see, this is what I want to see. I'd rather look at it than read about it. Let's see. So what we got here, this is this guy right here, Prince G. Great name. Let me just see if there's anything new here. So we're currently 4th on his list. We've offered, he is visiting on the week 9. It shows his pipeline tier. Again, I need to understand that a little bit better. Action summary, scholarship offered. In terms of influence, so the pitch to the house, soft sale, that he kind of accepted that one pretty well, apparently. Deal breaker, it shows his deal breaker down there. And did it say that every player's got a deal breaker? It may or may not. But there's your little icons. That's the visit. That's the scholarship. That's how many hours you put into them, apparently. So all this, it just looks really nice. And this is Michigan. And look, 1,000 hours. It doesn't say what week they're in, or does it? I don't think it does. But they got 26 on their target list, and they've had 15 guys being offered. Okay. So I don't have to read all the, so when it comes to scouting, I want to read this. I want to look at this. There we go. Let's look at this. So recruiting, let's look at this player right here. Scouting, spend hours to learn more about the prospect's ratings, abilities, and mentals. I'm just going to assume that depending on your coach abilities, you can pick these up quicker or learn more about these players at a quicker rate. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, and I may have, so let me go, okay, I've done that correctly. Let me click on number 2. This is what I wanted to see right here. All right. So 60% of the recruiting is done. You just don't know what they're at specifically, but until you get to certain ones, I think it's kind of random, unless some coaching abilities are tied to some of these specific ones. In time, you'll figure out their abilities and their mentals. Like, you'll eventually find out this guy's a team player, which is great, all that good stuff. Okay, what about the third image? And this is towards the end, where you figure out everything he is good at. His catch and traffic's 82. So here are the actual attributes. Catch and traffic is 1. Short route. That's interesting. Catching, awareness, medium route. Then you got run block, acceleration, pass block power. Is he a wide receiver? Okay, this makes sense. He is actually an athlete, but you look at his attributes, it just screams wide receiver. Pass block. Again, yes, it says athlete. He may be able to play something else besides that, but it looks like he is a wide receiver through and through. So after 100% scouting, you'll be able to figure out exactly what he's into. You just don't know what abilities he will have. I figured we would know that, because this is another thing. We talked about this in a couple of videos ago with 25, that you may want to recruit based off their abilities and their mentals and such. But it sounds like even for this, we don't know what their abilities will be until they get here. Unless I just did not read that somewhere down the line. Oh, yes, he's a tight end. You're right, Warren. That's a good, yes. 6'6", 247. He is a tight end. That is tight end all the way right there. So you just have to read between the lines at the height and the weight and kind of what pops up right here. So at least when it comes to athletes, you know pretty well what he's going to do. Really cool. So I'm glad you brought that up. And a fast one to boot. Yes. Let's go down here. Each attribute has 4 stages of scouting. Unscouted, partially, mostly, and fully scouted. When rating is fully scouted, you know exactly how good the prospect is, and their exact attribute rating is revealed. So when you go over to this image right here, this is like phase 2 of some of these until you get to phase 3 where you know exactly what they are good at, which makes sense. Okay. Let's see. Coaches, let's see. I want to go. We have modeled the uncertainty. Let me see. I've read nothing spectacular there. System creates a lot of variance in lower tier prospects. So this is good. So provides you with the opportunity to build your program with higher quality players who slip through the cracks of the recruiting rankings. Landing the top blue chip prospects is incredibly difficult. So this can be a highly effective recruiting strategy to build your program. Think back to the rise of Boise State and consistency of Oregon State in the early to mid-2000s. Both those programs excelled at finding gems who were under-recruited and overlooked by big schools. We have modeled, let me just make sure I didn't miss anything. For example, a 4-star bust is really a 3-star quality prospect, so on and so forth. So looks like we can still find hidden gems and such like we did in 14. Finding the ideal pitch. Once you determine a prospect meets your initial criteria, it's time to begin uncovering initial intel about the motivations of what they care about. Remember, every prospect has 3 motivations they care about, which comprise of their ideal pitch. Your goal is to discover their ideal pitch as quickly as possible, that you know if their motivations align with your program, and so that you have the information you need when you begin pitching in stage 2. Come down here, 5 recruiting actions. Offer scholarships, search social media. Spend some time scrolling through the player's social media to learn more about them. This will give you a very small amount of influence when they see you like the story. Just be careful not to like an image from 3 years ago. Really? You got to pay attention to that? That's interesting. Just be careful not to like an image from 3 years ago. So, Wow. That's a layer of depth right there I wasn't expecting. DM the player. You're going to slide into their DMs. Message the player directly on social media to start a conversation and learn more information about them. DMs will give you a small amount of influence as you start to build the relationship. So this is another cool little dynamic. It's new. It's 2024 when you're getting to the social media and direct messaging side of things. Kudos to whoever came up with that idea. Contact friends and family, make a phone calls, and send the house. All right, that looks pretty neat. I want to go right here. I'm always down for looking at these images. So this is the one, I think this was the sneak peek image from the day before. So here's actions as you want to schedule the visit. Let's look at the recruit. Just make sure I'm not missing anything here. I don't think I am. It looks like they haven't recruited him this week yet. At least this gives you a max. That way you can't just over recruit all the time and you run out of hours, like 4 weeks left into the season and such. All right. Stage 2, the pitch. So you've done your recruiting. You get to the point where you're down to the top 5 for this later. So it's time to begin pitching the prospect of your school and what you have to offer. By this point, you have to have a good amount of information about the prospect and what they care about. The more information you have, the more surgical you can be at the pitch. If you do not have much information about the prospect, you'll effectively be flying blind and risk pitching them on something they do not care about. If your pitch does not align with their motivations, you will actually have adverse effects. You can actually go down, which makes sense. So somebody asked me on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you? I guess it's probably an 8 or a 9. I still got that one little bit left, and where it makes me wonder if the game actually plays well or not. We won't know until we get to play it, though. Prospects, okay, soft sell and hard sell awards a moderate amount of influence when choosing a correct pitch. It also limits the downside risk and penalty of pitching the prospect on something they do not care about. This is best when you have some idea of what the recruits are motivated by. So soft sell until you know what they really like. Then you start the hard sell stuff. So I think this is a cool little new dynamic, soft sell and hard sell. Let me keep going. If your school does not perfectly align with your ideal pitch, you're looking for a way to get a competitive advantage, you can sway the prospect and change their motivations. You can change that. So if for whatever reason you're just awful at facilities, they don't like it, you can't change their mind. I'm guessing this is coachability related too. Successfully swaying your prospect will give them a second ideal pitch that is only available to you. It is possible the second ideal pitch also creates a third ideal pitch. Yeah. So your chances of successfully swaying a prospect increases the more overlap there is between their ideal pitch motivations and the pitch you are trying to sway them on. It is possible to sway them on a pitch where there is zero motivation overlap, but it's very low probability of success. It's like in the movie Inception. If anybody's played or watched that movie, I mean, there's so much depth in this thing. For example, let's say a prospect's current ideal pitch is hometown hero, which includes campus lifestyle, proximity to home, and program tradition. To increase your probability of success, again, this information right here, I will make sure to put this on the website in some form. Either it's going to be like in a table or something, but I'll make sure this is on there. That way you can always reference it. To increase your probability of success, you would want to stay away from them on a pitch that also has 1 or 2 of the hometown hero motivations. In this example, let's sway the prospect on the college experience pitch, which includes academic prestige, campus lifestyle, and stadium atmosphere. If our sway is successful, the prospect will now care about that academic prestige and stadium atmosphere in addition to the 3 motivations they already cared about. A successful sway gives you the ability to pitch 2 or more ideal pitches for the maximum influence gain. So it tells me that if you are really good at one thing and he doesn't care about it, you could possibly sway that player to really care about your biggest strength, which makes sense. This is an incredibly powerful action, and if used properly, you can separate you from the competition. So let's look at this one. So he's going to hard sell. Which pitch did he picked? Either way, so this makes sense. So you recruit, then you do a pitch, and if all else fails, you may need to sway. But you can only do 50 per week at the time, so you got to pick one of these, whether you're recruiting, you're pitching, or you're swaying. but you can have up to 50. So you could just do the send the house for 1 week. You could do a soft sale. You can also do a sway, just 20 plus 30 gives you 50. Okay, yeah. Oh, that makes sense. All right, stage 3, close. The final step is to close. Let's say a recruit can only take an official visit to a school when they are on a bye week or they have a home game. Additionally, the schools can host up to 4 recruits in a single week. You cannot stack visitors. That's the way I take that. When scheduling a visit with a prospect, you'll be charged 40 recruiting hours. You got to keep that in mind. You just got to manage your time. That's what recruiting comes down to, is managing your time and finding fits with players that fit what you're trying to do. The cost of a visit does not count towards the maximum number of hours you can allocate to. Okay, this is good. Yeah, I remember reading that from before. This allows you to continue your normal recruiting of the prospect the same week you schedule a visit. A visit is broken down into 2 main parts, scheduling and then activity. You can assign activities, that's right. So timing is everything. Let's say when you play the day, the visit also matters. Every visit during the regular season comes with a set of game day stakes, which determine the influence of bonus you will receive with the recruiting for winning the game and the potential downside for a loss. The stakes are set by the importance of visibility of the game the prospect will attend. Let's be honest, nobody wants to go to a game in a weak environment. Playing a lower tier opponent will provide a little upside and major downside if you lose. So you kind of have to pay attention to who you're playing. So like in 06, perfect example, we can't just recruit cakewalk teams around the time when we know guys are ready to come and visit. Because in that game, a win is a win is a win. As long as you win, you're doing good. In this game, you have to pay attention to who you are playing when they are bringing in that particular recruit. Conversely, playing your rival is also a top 5 team will also have the potential to leave a lasting impression. Even if you probably lose, it still may be okay. But of course, you can avoid any risk entirely by scheduling during the bye week. But then you get the game, you will not get any no game related bonuses at all. It's just another layer you got to keep up with. You got to decide if this is a good time to bring in that player. Hopefully you can win. And everything just kind of fits perfectly. Again, what's the key word with all this? Fit. Finally, other prospects who are visiting that weekend can also have a positive and negative impact based on whether or not their positions are complementary or competitive. I like this. I remember reading this earlier. Do not bring in 2 quarterbacks at once. Do not bring in 2 receivers at once. However, it's best if you bring in a quarterback and a wide receiver. So that makes a whole lot of sense to me. So that's just another layer of depth. Let me go. I'm going to go to this right here. Anything new with this one? Let's see. Add prospect. Let's see. No, I'm not seeing anything really new here. Complimentary visits, competitive visits. Okay, I just thought I may have saw something a little different there, but I'm not really seeing it. Unless there's a... Okay, so here's for stage 1. Stage 2, the activity is coming to that game. Active actions, TV time. Then you got this phase right here, a 10 position meeting. That's really cool. And all of these are affected with all of your pitches and whatnot. And all your attributes and everything. So all this just kind of ties in. So it's just not like in 06, you just select a pitch and you're good. You know, hopefully it's the one they like. But you got to choose an activity that kind of fits what they're looking for as well. Then you come over here. Hey, he commits. Cool. Really neat. So again, this kind of goes back to what we was talking about earlier. I'm assuming once you see this, I'm assuming this guy's committed for good. He won't go elsewhere. Hey, coach, I'm sorry, but I've decided to leave. Okay, this is probably transfer portal time. Let's read this. Over the last 3 years, transfer portal has completely reshaped college football and how you build your roster. While it can be used to quickly upgrade your roster, it can also gut your program. We know that. Just like recruits, players on your roster can also have a deal breaker, and any recruits that has a deal breaker will keep the deal breaker when they join your roster. Remember, deal breakers can be thought of as promise between you and a player. If you fail to uphold that, it's not good. Interesting. Keep in mind, let's see, and I've already read some of this. In addition to players entering the portal, high overall players may look to go pro and enter the draft if they've been in school for 3 or more years. Players who are entering the pro draft will display the round they are projected to be drafted in. Oh, that's cool. I like that. I don't remember reading that earlier. Once a player has decided to leave, you'll have an opportunity to persuade them to stay. The chance to successfully persuade a player to stay is determined by their overall and your coach prestige. The higher overall players will be harder to convince than the lower ones. All right. However, keep in mind that you only have a limited number of persuasion attempts. The number of persuasion attempts you have is determined by your coach's prestige. That's something to keep in mind. The higher your prestige, the more attempts you will have. So if you're a one-star coach prestige, you're just kind of in a world of hurt when it comes to persuading kids to want to come back. After advancing the week, you'll be able to see the pro draft results. Yes, that's really good, which show where players were drafted. When creating a pro draft results, we use real world data. So let's see this right here. So it shows the players that are left, like this halfback, he's going pro and he's projected to go to second round. It shows all his physicals, his little attributes, a couple of transfers, and why they are leaving, playing time and playing style. But persuasion chance, so you still have a chance to go, try to persuade these teams, but you got 10 total, the full width. I just like this. This is really cool. Just more depth. They just added so much more to this. I think it's best if you play elsewhere. Okay, let's go to the transfer portal. Okay, as we said in the beginning, one of our goals was to make the transfer portal automatic, authentically unpredictable. This begins with players leaving. Some schools may face a mass exodus of players, while others may be left untouched. Once all players have decided where to stay or go, the transfer portal will officially open at the start of off-season recruiting. Off-season recruiting lasts 4 weeks, not 5, but 4. In total, transfers will make the final decisions, and at the end of it, the National Signing Day. Just like in real life, there's a chaotic 4 weeks where players are committed quickly and team rosters are rapidly changing. I bet that it will be chaotic. I can just see that. Teams will have to constantly make quick decisions, sometimes with limited information. Do you want to continue pursuing high school recruits? Are the transfers who can immediately improve your roster? How much time do you want to spend discovering a transfer's motivations? Yeah, every transfer is giving a star rating based on their overall. Every player in transfer portal has the same deal breaker that caused them to leave originally. Their new ideal pitch will include their deal breaker motivation, and it'll be relevant to the transfer and their unique needs. Pretty neat. Again, I'd like to see it more in action. Regardless of where they start, the process of recruiting a transfer is fast and you will need to make quick decisions. Yes, we get that. Just don't have a lot of time to figure out who to go after. And that's no different in real life, honestly. Of course, once they have the players who are actually in the portal, their priorities may change. So we only get one of these. I figure we get a progression here, but this is the transfer portal. Look at Oklahoma. They had a ton of hours to play with. Must be nice. Just kind of looking here and it shows the name. Let me just see if anything's different from the high school recruits. So the previous team, awesome to see that. Deal breaker, championship contender. To me, it feels like this is more of just a slightly different mini game compared to actual recruiting high school athletes, which is great. They're not just jumbled in with high school. Like, you got to treat transfers a little differently, and I feel like the game is doing that. Yes, I agree. I think this is a good way to go about doing this. But let's see how but I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I read that earlier, the first time I read it, where you could just kind of recruit transfers. You can kind of look at them throughout the whole season, unless I just missed something. I could have completely overlooked that. All right, signing day. On signing day, any players who have verbally committed to a school prior to signing will sign, meaning they will no longer decommit. Let me read that one more time. On signing day, any players who have verbally committed to a school prior to signing day will sign, meaning they can no longer decommit. But that tells me they still have the option to decommit earlier than before. Anyway, the majority of prospects will commit prior to signing day, but some recruits may last later to the cycle. Those prospects, along with transfers, will ultimately sign their letter of intent on National Signing Day. Throughout recruiting, you can view the team recruiting rankings and such. Let's say any recruits who are unsigned after National Signing Day will stick around and become walk-ons in the offseason. With that being said, the days of a player who is being actively recruited, not committing anywhere, and drifting off into the ether is over. This is like the netherworld of Mortal Kombat. You just kind of drift off into nothing. But no longer will you have to speculate and fantasize what happened to them. They did fail to get to a school because of their grades. Did they have a change of heart? Did they decide to try archery instead? What is something you said? Now the team with the highest influence on National Signing Day will get the player as long as they have offered them a scholarship. This was a huge quality of life improvement that we felt was a must to have. They're very happy we were able to deliver on it. So like in 2006, you remember there's a bunch of recruits that just didn't sign with anybody. I think they were just deleted from the game. I never kept up with them afterwards. It's kind of hard to do so. But it looks like a lot of these kids that just don't sign with anybody can still kind of hang around and become walk-ons. So let me look here. Let's click on this one. And let me go and click on this one. So here we go. That player signed with Oklahoma State. 4-star quarterback. Was he like a transfer? I don't really say anywhere. He may high school. Okay. So on the next one, it comes over here. These are just your top classes. I think once it's all said and done. 33 total commits. Wow, I'm not used to having hardly 25, let alone 33. Look at this, 35 commits. That's the most you can have, I'm pretty sure. It should be with the target. Yes, 35 scholarships. So you can have up to 35 players, but if you think about it, it makes sense. Your roster is now up to 85. So there may be some times where you need to get that many commitments. And of course, you got to factor in people leaving. So, some of these players that are included here are transfer kids. But here are the top commitments on this side. 5-star, 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 5-star. Must be nice. Quarterback, a halfback, 2 quarterbacks. Good for Texas. All right. Let me back out of here. Position changes. Following signing day, you'll have the opportunity to change players' positions ahead of offseason progression. This is especially important for any athletes. That makes complete sense. Coming in, if you forget to set an athlete's position, they will automatically be assigned to their primary archetype. So if you accidentally goof up and just don't assign that athlete, they will be assigned to the best one they fit, which makes sense. Players will be able to change to any other position regardless of their original position. The position change spreadsheet will show you the projected overall of the new position, which archetype they would become, where they would rank on the depth chart, the number of players at the position. Once you confirm their new position, they will receive a new set of physical abilities that are specific to that archetype. The physical abilities and tier they receive are determined by their new attributes. Mental abilities will not change unless the mental ability does not apply to their new position. Player progress. I want to see a picture. I want to see an image of that. Player progression in college football. The offseason is the most impactful. Let's see in Dynasty, players will automatically progress their attributes and physical attributes. Mental abilities cannot be upgrading, allowing for greater differentiation between players. Players will progress during the season based on their on-field performance, but the bulk of their progression will happen in the offseason, which makes sense. Off-season progression happens after the position changes stage so that players will progress in their new positions. The amount of player progresses in the offseason is influenced by their school year, your coach abilities, and their development trait. To stimulate the real-world difference in physical maturity between a freshman and a senior, younger players, likely rising sophomores, will take larger leaps. I like that. During the offseason than a rising senior. Similarly, a player's coaching staff will have a significant impact on their development. For example, motivators can have the pay it forward ability, which awards bonus XP to a position group every time a player of that position is drafted in the first 3 rounds. Motivators can also have the put in the work ability, which increases off-season development for players in a particular position group. Progression will then be further modified by the player's development trait. Again, it's just another layer of depth. I'm actually okay with having to keep up with it, but it's a lot to take in. In College Football 25, there are 4 player development traits. You got normal, impact, star, and elite. So normal players are the most common, progress at standard rate, expect them to steadily grow over their career. The elite one is the best of the best. These players will make a statement the moment they get on campus and have a potential to be an all-time great. Unless I just did not read it, I'm curious if we know what that will be before we actually get them to commit. It would be nice to say, hey, this guy is an elite developer. I'm guessing I think it's one of the traits, if I'm not mistaken. It should be. So we should know that by the time they commit to us. Once a player's on your roster, the development trait. Oh, okay. This answers my question. Once a player is on your roster, their development trait is known and can be seen on the player card. So this is actually more realistic. You don't know what you're getting until they get on campus. Does that make sense? And that's, again, the most realistic way to do that. It's probably best if I don't know, hey, kid is just an ultimate player. You got to go get him. It was a perfect example of this is when, again, I'm a Tennessee fan. We had Cam Sutton. He was a 3-star cornerback. Nobody thought much of anything. But that first practice, everybody was like, wow, this kid is incredible. This is kind of what that is right here. So I'm glad they included that. I like that. So when a player is a recruit, their development trait is hidden until the National Signing Day. Unless you have the strategist archetypes. Okay, this is going to be good. Unless you have the strategist archetypes mind reader ability, and this, Warren just mentioned it, which gives you a chance to learn the development trait when they become in for an official visit. I'm going to assume this is a very important ability to have. To be able to know, you can become the ultimate program builder if you can get to that point and find out what their developmental trait is. If you can somehow recruit some of the best ones with the best developmental trait, then that can help you not have to recruit as hard in certain areas. Either way, I really like that. So yes, Warren, I agree with you. This is super important if you really care about knowing what the developmental trait is before they sign with you. I think that's really interesting. All right, skill groups. I would assume that is too. I can't imagine to be like a level 1 ability. That have to be like a level 4 or something. As opposed to progressing each attribute individually, for example, trucking, players will instead progress an entire skill group. A skill group is a collection of related attributes. For example, the running back power skill group includes trucking, strength, stiff arm, toughness, jumping, and injury. Every skill group has a max level of 10. Each time you upgrade a skill group, it will increase 1 level and progress all the attributes in that skill group. With that being said, some players will have a skill group max level or cap that is less than 10. And this is what I wanted to see right here. Let's go straight to this image, which looks awesome, by the way. I mean, just kudos for just making this all look really good. All right, so let's just see here. Ratings, let me just see. Looseness, hands, IQ, route running. He's probably not going to be an air raid halfback. Power, really good. Quickness, really good. I'm just wanting to see toughness. Let's say power. Okay, so there we go. So you go to a rating or an attribute, and it brings up these. Toughness, injury, strength, jumping, stiff arm, and trucking. So it's like another layer of attributes. That's the way I take that. But there are 6 main ones. That's the way I'm reading this. I don't see an up or down arrow where you can keep on going. So you got built into that. That's really cool. Then just let me look at my mentals and physicals. So this tells me that thankfully not every player has exactly 8 mentals and physicals. This guy has 7 total. Your best players are going to have 7 to 8. Your worst players may have barely 1 in terms of these. So this is all very interesting. So if I highlight it over IQ, it's probably going to say awareness. It's probably going to say pass blocking, if that makes sense. So you got just another layer of ratings built into these main 6. And again, these are going to change based on the position. You're not going to see these same ones for a strong safety, if that makes sense. All right. Really neat. I like that. Let me just say what else. Mentals, physicals, it just goes into more details with these over here. And there's some more stuff to know about that player. We've already talked about the mental and physical abilities. They kind of cover that later on. So let me see. Let's read this. So as Scott described in the gameplay deep dive, players can also have up to 5, not 5, but up to 5 physical abilities and 3 mental abilities. So up to 3 for the mentals. Both physical and mental abilities have 4 tiers. So it feels like everything in this game just has multiple tiers to it. Bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. Physical abilities are determined by the player's archetype, and the mental abilities are position specific. So there's only going to be certain ones that only halfbacks can have. While progressing, players will look to upgrade their physical abilities if they meet the rating requirement. So whenever it gets to a certain point, I guess it'll go from a bronze to a silver. Every tier of physical ability has an associated attribute requirement. For example, in order to have a platinum workhorse ability, there's a show down here, the workhorse. I don't see it anywhere. Looks like not. Okay. For example, in order to have the platinum workhorse ability, a player must have 95 toughness. So you got to be just absolutely elite in certain ratings in order to get a platinum status on anything, as it should be. And set above, Dynasty players cannot upgrade their mental abilities. So if a player does not come in as a freshman with a particular mental ability, there is no way for them to earn that ability through progression. So it is what it is when it comes to your head. All right, let me click on this, see if there's any changes here. That's your mentals, and that just shows your physicals. So like right here, let me open this up. So just like for takeoff, quicker release off the line when not pressed. That is a platinum. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. Yes, platinum requires 99 acceleration. You got 94, so this is gold. So all these are gold from what I can tell. Okay. But so you keep up with it, but you don't have to. This is out of your control pretty much, more or less. It's just up to the player to progress however they can, more or less. But at least you can kind of keep up with it and kind of see what they're really good at. Like this guy's got incredible juke moves and stuff because he's got a good sidestep. So whenever you're running with him, you may want to think about juking more or less. It's just, again, another layer we got to keep up with. All right, impact players. This should be interesting. So impact players are back in a quick way for you to identify the key players on the team. Every team will have at least one offense and one defensive player who is an impact player. However, unlike in the past, there is no limit. This will be interesting. Hopefully this is a good thing and not a bad thing. There is no limit on the number of impact players a team can have. Can you imagine having like a dozen or so? Gee whiz. I guess Georgia has a dozen or so. Well, here they are. Georgia's down here. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They got 7 on the screen as is. I think that's all 11 of them right there. I think it is. Yeah. So they got 7 impact guys on offense on the field at once. They're playing Alabama. I see one right there, and maybe there's another one. Interesting. So explosive offensive with playmakers everywhere might have 5 or 6 impact players across the board, letting you know straight up what that they got dudes and they are about to cook. So the more stars you see out there, the better they are. What you kind of know going in where you're about to face. So this may actually help if you want to scout a little bit beforehand. Of course, if you're going, is there a point to scout Georgia since they got 5 stars all over the place? But yes, it's unlimited impact players. That's what that says. That's kind of the way I read that. The line is stacked, no, for sure. All right, so managing wear and tear. I think this is something you can turn off. I think I read that earlier. So with induction of the new wear and tear system, the week-to-week management of your players is more essential than ever. As described in the gameplay deep dive, players can incur damage to body parts during gameplay. The more damaged a body part is, the more it will impact their on-field performance. In addition to on-field gameplay, players will also incur wear and tear damage to Super Sim during Super Sim, which I'm glad is back in the game. That way we can kind of hurry up some games when we know it's needed. Each week, players will come in wear and tear. The biggest thing, if I should read that, somebody can confirm this. I think this is something you could turn off. Like, I don't get overly excited about this, honestly. I don't need to know if my right guard's left butt cheek is sore. I just want to know if the kid's healthy or not. I don't need to know about the left shoulder. I mean, it's cool. Do I need to know that much depth? Like his speed went down just a little because his right leg. That's neat that it's in there. I just don't know personally if I care to know that nth degree of it. That's just me. I may love it later on, but for some reason I felt like this is something you could just turn off. And if a player is injured, a player is injured. It's much simpler. All right, delivering the real college football world. Okay, so we're going to skim through a little bit of this. So again, we got the college football playoff. Everybody knew this was coming in here. It's in there. There it is. Pretty simple. It is real, and we can actually dive into it more. Top 25 rankings. You got your All this looks pretty simple, but I like this little right side right here. And they talked a little bit about this in the presentation deep dive. These little extra screens on here, I think is great. Instead of just showing Ohio State 7-0 in their last game, they beat Nebraska. I like seeing these other little things as well. It just adds a little more flavor to the game. I really like that. College football playoff, that's pretty simple but cool there. Here is more rankings. I don't think I read this earlier. I don't think I missed much from this before. It just, I think it just goes into more detail as to who's going to make the playoff and such. Let me just make sure I didn't skip an image. Let me come down here. And there's the top, your playoff. And there's your bye week teams, your top 4 teams. So again, college football playoff, the 12-team format is in there. Bowl projections, this is pretty cool. It gives you a nice little screen there. I bet if you can look under these, you could probably get more detail on any one of these by just hitting like the more detail, more button or something. But there it is, Rice versus Fresno State, the Arizona Bowl. Meet your neighbor. Okay, so conference realignment, this is great. This was in 14. From what I could tell when I read this and I watched the video, I don't think I noticed anything super new. So when you click on this, we can open it up, make it look a little bit bigger. So you can make these as funky as you want. You can add up to 20. I think that's what it said, total of 20. I was never a big conference realignment guy. It would be cool if they had some presets in here. This is something they're probably going to do like in a future game where you can go to the 1994 season and everybody switches around. Does that make sense? I think that would be a really cool addition, like in NBA 2K games. The last couple, they had the NBA My Eras, which is part of their franchise. You could go to 1984, and this is the current 1984 setup. I think they will include that in this game next year, the year down the road. Otherwise, you're going to spend a whole lot of time moving a bunch of teams around if this is super important to you. If it's super important to you that you want the original Pac-12 or Pac-10, if you want to go that far, you can do that. It's just going to take some time to move a lot of these teams around. Either way, it's in here and you can do that. But retro eras, yeah, so I think that's a better way to put it. I think retro eras would be a really cool addition down the road, but it did not shock me that this wasn't built in here. I fully get that. So the SEC will follow the 8-game with 1 protected opponent rotation. Big Ten will utilize a 9-game flex protect schedule, so on and so forth. It's all based off the 2024 alignment. If you need a refresher on who's where, or if you're looking to follow along with the conference races, you can keep an eye on everything in the conference standing screen. And this is the conference standing screen right here. Nice and clean. Again, it's got a little information about that team when you hover over them. I still like that it shows their schemes. I like that. Like, I just kind of need to know if you run air raid or not. If you're an air raid team, great. I'm all for it. But I can see when I'm going to play Dynasty, when I'm going to be posting videos of this stuff, I can see how my Dynasty videos are going to be much longer, or there's going to be more videos where I may be scouting for 20 minutes, trying to figure out kind of what I want to do against a team and such. And that may be something I could post on the channel as well. I'm not really sure. So be your own commissioner. If you prefer to reset conferences to previous configuration, push forward to a potential future, or just blow everything up and make whatever conference or membership you want and adjust the rules to your liking, you have the power to do so. It's just up to you if you want to go through all that or not. One day I may dive into that. I don't know. But at least it's in there, and I fully expect it to be. So you can have as low as 4 or as many as 20 schools in one conference. So if you really want to try the full-blown power conference model, you can do that. You can have, I guess, how many? 20, that'd be 5, maybe power 20 conferences. You can have a total of 5 conferences if you wanted. And here are the rules. I want to look at this a little further. Go right here. So here are the rules. So divisions, do you want them or not? So if you went the full 20 route, could you still turn divisions off and on? I assume you can. Division name 1 and 2. That's simple. Change that. Number of conference games, which I think is really interesting that you could change that based off the amount of teams in your conference. Conference championship game. If you got 7, so this is like the Big 12 last year. So if you got forgive me if I don't remember how many teams were in the conference last year, but say you got 11 If you want to have an 11-team conference, you can still have a championship game. It'll just go to the top 2 teams. It even shows you location. You can pick location, which is great. And championship game selection criteria, top teams by conference record. There you go. Pretty cool. Now that's in there. The conference jersey patch switches. Yes, we'll talk about it here in a minute unless I skipped it. But that's a big thing for everybody. Don't worry. If you're moving Kennesaw State up to the SEC, it will have the SEC patches built in. You'll also make adjustments, conference membership and rules when starting a dynasty as well at the end of each season. So this is not locked in. At the end of every season, if you want to switch something around, you can do so. So you can move teams around left and right whenever you want to. So here's a good example of James Madison going to the ACC. And look, it even's got the ACC logo and their colors are built in. Awesome. Really neat. So you don't have to worry about that. It's all going to come out just fine with the patches. Again, they got the built-in colors. I think that was just a nice little add-on right there, to say the least. And there was another one. There you go. The ACC logo on their jerseys to go with it. So they got the patches, the field logo, everything is set up, ready for you. All that good stuff. So let's talk about schedules. Let's see. It's not enough to make sure that the schedules rotate. Let me just read a couple comments here. This is good. If teams like FSU change conferences, you can update. Yes, everything should update automatically, which I like. And again, it changes the colors around the logo as well. Good job, EA, for that, doing that. So if it's the third Saturday of October, Tennessee better be playing Alabama. I agree. If it's Thanksgiving weekend, the Iron Bowl, big game, Florida State, Florida, and a host of other rivalry games better be on the table next to the turkey and stuffing. Dynasty mode scheduling system will make sure these special games get filled in the correct weeks before adding in the rest of the conference and non-conference slate to get each school in their game. So let me come down here, open this bad boy up. So here's the Florida Gators schedule. They got Georgia right here. They got it's a neutral site. I'm glad they fixed, yeah, that's still in there. Let's see. But all this should still be built in, according to what we just read right there. All like your big-time rivals and such. For non-conference games, we have included as many real-world games as were announced by the time we had the locked schedules. So when you get to 2027 and 2028, the Florida State-Georgia home-and-home series will already be scheduled, which makes sense. So they're kind of going ahead a little bit there. In 2029-30, the Notre Dame Alabama home-and-home will be scheduled. So that's really cool. So everything that's been scheduled up the next 6 years or so, they got them built in as long as you don't change anything. Our schedule generator will be used to fill out everyone's schedule to make sure that every school has 12 games for all 30 years of the dynasty. It sounds like they put a lot of effort into this, make sure nothing got messed up, and it kept it authentic. Kickoff games like Duke's Mayo Classic and the Vegas Classic are here as well, and will be scheduled in future years of Dynasty mode. Pretty cool. Again, they put a lot of effort into that. Another recent addition to World College Football is the concept of Week 0, where the season still kicks off in Labor Day weekend for a majority of schools. Some get things started a week prior, and what has been affectionately termed Week 0. The authentic Week 0 games are scheduled for year 1 of Dynasty, and in future years, Week 0 will get utilized. However, the bulk of the schools will be still put toe to leather for the first time in the traditional Labor Day weekend window, which is the greatest weekend ever. You can see your team's entire schedule on the team schedule screen, or look at the schedule around the country week by week. Each week's broadcast type will be determined based on the biggest game on that week's slate. If the game is either a national or streaming broadcast, it will be called by our team, Reese Davis, Jesse Palmer, David Pollock. The game of the week will only go to Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit, which is what that is set up in real life. Let me look here. So you see here, this is week 7. I'm just kind of looking through here. Looks like this is the national game of the week. You see the little map, the U.S. map underneath that. So surely not every game is televised. I guess it'd be cool if it didn't. Like for a rink-a-dink game, 2 terrible teams. But I guess every game's on TV in some form or another. Unless I just misread it. Looks like there's a bunch of games that are going to be televised regardless. The crowd themes of our friend presentation. Let's say, set your schedule. Okay, I want to read this. In addition to custom conferences, you can also customize your non-conference schedule. Conference games are designated with a lock icon and cannot be edited. Makes sense. We've seen that before. But your non-conference games do not have a lock, signifying that they are able to edit. I'm just looking here. Southeast Stadium. So there's your locks right there. That's just no different. I mean, it's typical schedule stuff. When you select a week, you will have all the available. Okay, so let me go back one more. Select any week that features a non-conference opponent or any bye week to be able to select a different team to play that week. You can only have up to 12, so we need to remove a game before trying to add a new one. I'm guessing this will be a lot more flexible than what it was like in 06. I can't relate to 14. I haven't played it enough recently to remember what that scheduling was like. So when you select a week, you will have all the available opponents that you can choose from. Some schools will not be available if they are already locked into a conference game if that week, so you'll have more luck finding a larger set of available teams earlier in the season before most schools have started conference play. You come right here. Let me open up this one. I'm going to open up this one as well. So here is custom schedules week 2. So that's cool. That's the custom schedule screen. And you just kind of pick what you want. And it shows you how good they are. See, this information is very handy. This actually helps if you are just real particular about the type of teams you want to go up against. At least it tells you out of the gate, hey, Oregon State, they're not ranked, but they're still really good. And you can come over here and see how good they actually are. And you can see what schemes they run. See, I love that. So maybe you want to go up against, you want to differentiate your 4 non-conference opponents, or 3, however many there are, depending on which team you got. You want to play an air raid team. You want to play a flexbone. Maybe you want to take on a 3-4 team. At least this shows you this, to have the back out, go over to the team info screen or the coach screen and see what these are. This gives you the information you need to figure out the type of teams you want to go up against in the non-conference schedule. I like it a lot. All right, let's look at this again. I don't think this was different from what we saw before, but this is really cool. It shows just, the Bedlam series. It shows the rankings, the records, the previous season, of course. Shows you where you're going to be playing it at. Regenerate schedule. If you can hit that button, it kind of automatically sets it up doing something different. That's interesting. There's that half-star thing again. So Oklahoma State, they are a 3.5-star program. So there's 10 tiers, I guess, if you want to do the math right there. Now, let me back out of here. You also changed if the non-conference game is a home or away game by simply toggling yes. To avoid mass confusion of multiple people trying to edit schedules at the same time, the commissioner in an online dynasty is responsible for making all custom schedule changes. This makes sense. This could have been in NCAA 14 as well. I've never done an online dynasty, so I'm not really sure. But it makes sense. You got to have a commissioner to kind of keep track of everything, to make sure everything is on an even keel. All right, so we got some team builder stuff. Team builder is back. You can import up to 16 team builder teams in a private online dynasty. The commissioner will need to replace existing FBS schools with the team builder teams they want to add and when setting up the dynasty. Including team builder schools is only available at the creation of the league, and they can only be used in private online dynasties. Okay, so make sure your commissioner knows which school you want to use when getting the online dynasty started. So you have to pay special attention to that. All of you online dynasty people, make sure you get your ducks in a row with all this before you start your dynasty. To burn a shirt or not burn a shirt, I guess this is red shirt stuff, I think. All right, so the changes, let me go here. Each preseason, you'll have the option of selecting which players you for sure want to red shirt. And during the course of the season, you can monitor how many games each player has played in order. This is a mistake right here. In order to make the determination on if you want to keep playing that player or have him sit the remainder of the year in order to preserve his redshirt status. Those 4 games can be played at any point in the season. So they've given them the realistic redshirt updated rules, as they should. So you can get an updated freshman. You can get a freshman some game reps early in the year and then hold him out until the end of the season and then bring him back for a playoff run if the wear and tear is bad. So you just got to monitor your players. If you don't want to initially redshirt them, you just got to pay attention to which games they play and make sure they don't play those certain games. Or you can keep it simple, or you just straight up redshirt them. But once a player has a 5th game in the season, they are no longer eligible for that red shirt. Just another layer of roster management. If micromanaging red shirts is not your thing, no worries at all. Anyone who is eligible for a red shirt at the end of the season will automatically be applied. So you don't have to like really keep up with it. It's still best that you do so, if that makes sense. All right. Earning accomplishments. We got some awards. Nothing too exciting. I mean, it's just a Heisman Trophy. Yeah, you won the Heisman. This tells me you probably don't have a fancy Heisman ceremony at the end, like the little bitty one they created in 06, but it's there just to kind of show what it looks like, whoever won it and such. Well, this is the Heisman Watch screen. This is what it looks like every week, I would say. Let's see. You got preseason All-American. Of course, you got all the awards, the individual awards. Some of them, I think, did not make the list, so they may be just generic and such. But you got coordinator awards. That's cool. Coach of the Year award. Okay, so you got preseason All-Americans, first-team All-Americans. You got them at the conference level. You got postseason. You got them at the conference. And you got freshman teams as well. Again, we've seen this in games before. You look here, your All-American. Let me check this out. So this is a nice little boost. It just kind of gives you, again, you don't have to hit another button to figure out that type of player, what he looks like and such, what his physicals and mentals are. That's just really cool that it just gives you that information as you go through all these. And it even gives you the rankings for all these teams at that point as well. Again, just a little bitty things that kind of make up a good little product there. Let's see. Records are meant to be broken. No career mode would be complete without tracking player stats and record books. Season stats, track individual players. Let's see. Career stats, track individual player stats for their career. Coach stats. Yes. The record book. Yes. So the record book is in there. I just wasn't expecting it to not be. But at least they've proved that it's going to be in there. Play for pride. So people are really excited about the sticker thing, pride stickers. I've never paid much attention to that, but as you can see here, this player right here, there's his stickers like in week 2 or 3. Then at the end of the season, he can have a ton of them. So if your school is real big on pride stickers, there you go. They are in there. They should be pretty accurate. And here's Ohio State. Same thing. Well, they're like the most iconic, I guess, pride stickers in terms of helmets and such. So what else? Here's some more bullet points. Both online and offline Dynasty can go for 30 seasons. Caduce to you if you can go 30 seasons in this thing. Up to 32 users can participate in Dynasty, offline or online. I cannot imagine having a 32 user Dynasty. How in the world could you guys progress from week to week if somebody's just lagging behind? I don't know how that works, but either way, more power to you if you're willing to go that route. Only one user per school. I'm okay with this. I don't know if anybody else would be upset over that. If you haven't noticed yet, I have been live for over 2 hours, and we covered just so much stuff in Dynasty. Can you imagine trying to control 2 schools at once doing all this? You can't. So anybody who's upset that you can not control more than one school, I mean, more power to you if you want to control all of that for multiple schools, but here you can't. And I think you're going to be fine without that. The commissioner is in charge of determining the settings of the Dynasty, the roster file that's used at league creation. That's good. So it's good you got a commissioner that handles all that. Handles all the custom conferences. Yeah, no pressure as being a commissioner who handles all that. So somebody has asked me already if I'm going to do an online Dynasty with some people. I mean, no offense to my viewers and such. I don't even know if I'm going to do an online Dynasty with my buddies. Like, I got a handful of buddies that will probably play this with me. I may do a Dynasty with them, but it's going to be hard to have 2 Dynasties going at once. I don't know. So, again, if you ask me, can I join your Dynasty? Forgive me if I just tell you no out of the gate, because, again, I got a lot of stuff going on here. I got a channel to uphold and keep going. But either way, it's possible. You never know. I may be in your Dynasty sometime this year. You can keep track of everyone's status at the member screen. Let's see. Commissioners will have the ability to force the win in the event that a game was not able to be completed. There you go. And for those of you who like to restart a game versus the CPU that isn't going your way, the number of times a game was started is tracked on the scores and schedule screens for all to see. So any of you cheesers out there who just don't like the way things are going, you want to back out, you will show that up. So your scars will always show in this game. All right. Hey, we made it to the end. Like I said, I'm 2 hours into this thing. We finally got to the end of this thing, and I didn't read every single word, forgive me, but I think I glossed over 98% of what we just looked at. We looked at every image. We looked at the video at the beginning, and I'm exhausted, but I'm really excited about what's to come. All right, so let's just hang around for a couple more minutes. If anybody has any questions or whatnot, we'll talk about it before I leave. 1 user per school means that you and a friend can't be coordinators for the same team. Correct. Yes, that's what that means. That does make sense. Which would be cool if you could do that, though, honestly. Can you imagine doing that? Me and a buddy, I'm running the offense, the other guy runs the defense. That would be cool. But yes, that's what that means. But again, it's a competition. Why would you want to be on the same team anyways? So I kind of understand what they're getting at there. But that could be a future addition. I can see that happening down the line. All right, anybody else have anything? 2 hours went by really quick going through all that. I looked at my time just a couple of times, and I was like, boom, wow, it's already 6:30. Let's see. I think the most impact players you can have is 5 or 6. William, no, that's not the case. If I can go find it, may take me a little bit. This is a super long blog post, but you can have unlimited. That's what it said, I think. Let me go up here and find it. Okay, so here you go. So here's Georgia alone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on that, and that's just on offense. Unlimited. Where was it at? It was explosive, 6 impact. It's just incredible. Every team has at least, however, there is no limit to the number of impact players you can have. So we'll just, is that a good thing, bad? I don't know. And we won't know. As long as they're not super impactful like an 06, like I don't want to see 6 Herschel Walkers on the same team at different positions who would just completely dominate. But I guess if you recruit well enough, they may happen, I guess. So we'll just see. But yeah, just no limit. I'm curious to say, my guess between their abilities, and that was another thing I was a little worried about, as me being able to figure out exactly what coverage that other team is. I don't think the player abilities or the impact player status is going to be super impactful. I'm hoping not. I don't want that to override the overall gameplay. But either way, hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. I missed it. The 12-team playoff, the only postseason option, I'm pretty sure it is. That's a good question. I'm pretty sure it is. Did I miss it? It should be up here somewhere. Let me go up here. I think it was, let's see. But this year starts the 12-team format, and you get to experience it. I'm pretty sure that's the only format there is. I think that would be really hard for them to implement older ones. And I kind of understand that. Like the old BCS model, that'd actually be kind of cool if it was in here. But I think you can only do the 12-team model. But Board and Broke may be right there. They may add more information about that later. I don't think anywhere in here did it say, no, 12-team playoff is the only option you have. The 5+7, I'm just 5/5 automatic qualifier. Yeah, I think they focus so heavily on this 12-team format thing that I'm quite positive that it's the 12-team format. Just make sure I'm not missing anything. So recruiting is going to be fun, deep. There's just a lot of layers to this thing. Everything has got like 2 to 3 layers built into it. It's going to be a lot to keep up with, especially for old schoolers like me who's not used to seeing 3 layers of recruiting and a coach. And I'll get used to it. We all will. But either way, they've put a lot of effort into this at least. Let's just hope it all functions well. That's the one thing we don't know until the game comes out. We play with it. Hopefully they don't have any game-breaking stuff. I guess one of the positives to that is if they do find something game-breaking, maybe they can fix it in an update. We'll see. All right, anybody got anything else? Before I leave, I'm exhausted. I need to get me some supper and relax for the rest of the night. Thanks, Board and Broke. I've never heard you before. I've never seen you comment on anywhere or any place. And in my press, you may just signed up as a new subscriber, and thank you for that if you did. All right. Thanks to everybody who came in. That was a lot of fun. I figured this was like the easiest way for me to go through everything. It would have took me hours and hours to try to put a video together on it. And I don't have the skills for that. So I figured I'd just do like a live reaction to kind of go through it. Y'all can go back and watch whatever parts you want to later on. I think the next deep dive is Road to Glory. I'm interested in that. If you just need to take a break from the recruiting and the Dynasty, machine, that's what it is. But that should be pretty cool as well, and I may do a video on that as well. All right, guys, thank you again, and I'll talk to you later.